Hey everybody, it's QUAD9s back with my Sedris EDH Deck Tech version 2.0. This is the last one. It's the creatures. If you haven't got a chance to watch the other parts, just check out my page or maybe some of the videos on the right here. Let me know what you think. Any suggestions are always appreciated. If you just want to know more how the interactions work, if I haven't explained it properly, also let me know. I'll be happy to tell you some instances where it's come up and where it was helpful. Starting off, of course, I'm going to talk about the general. He is costs 6. It's 3 colorless, blue, red, black, and each creature in your graveyard has Unearth for black and 2. Now, if you're going to run this guy, get Sundial Infinite. I covered it in my artifact section, but it's a good combo. For if you have that in play, you unearth them for another 1 mana. When the Unearth trigger goes on the stack to exile your guy, you just end your turn, and the trigger goes away. You keep your guy, so you can cast anybody out of your graveyard and keep them for 4 mana. And since half my deck costs 6 and upwards, it's a good value, especially if you're bringing back for the second time. My 2-drops are pretty sparse, only 2. Got Nightscape Familiar if you're running Grixis. This is the guy you want. Spells cost less. You can regenerate him. He's an infinite blocker pretty much, and making your spells cost 1 less speeds up all your turns. This is the Obscure card from Future Sight. Not many people run it, but in this deck it's not an all-star, but it's definitely good utility. Get to discard a card for black and tap, and I put a 1/1 Goblin into play, Festering Goblin, and when he leaves play, it puts a 1/1 counter. So it basically can block a 2/2 and kill it, or it can block a 1/1 and put a counter on somebody else. But one of the big things is getting to discard a card. This is a graveyard deck, so I like having the cards I want in my graveyard, because I can usually get them out cheaper than the casting cost. If you haven't tried this card in a graveyard deck, you might look it up. It's good value. Like I said, you need to be doing something in the early turns, and for 2 mana, it's a pretty good card. On to my 3-drops in one of the quote-unquote combos I have. Got the Doom Necromancer, black tap sack, return target creature card from your graveyard into play. That does work with Eldrazi. You say they hit the graveyard with the trigger on the stack to reshuffle your graveyard. You sack this guy. They come straight into play. You can do it at the end of somebody's turn if you can discard it. Like, say, with this guy. Sorry about the full glare. That's one of the few problems with having fulls, is trying to get them on video. The Grixis Battle Mage, blue, tap, draw, discard. So, and you can also target creature can't block for red tap, which is sometimes very relevant. But the main reason I have them in here is for the discard effect. Like I say, I have a Eldrazi. The one I have is Ulamog. Spoiler alert. But I have Ulamog in my hand. Tap blue, discarding. Trigger on the stack. Tap black, bring him into play. So into somebody's turn for black and blue, you can really ruin their day. On to the next ones. We got Coffin Queen. I just picked this one up. I wanted to get it for a while. I saw it in Marlon Egoff's Sedris deck on a YouTube video, and it does good things. You can get a creature out of any graveyard and put it into play under your control, as long as you control Coffin Queen or it's tapped. If you can get any kind of hexproof on this card here, like the Swiftfoot Boots or the Lightning Greaves, I suggest you do it, because if you can land this and get the best creature out, it's smooth going from there usually. Got a Shadow Mage Infiltrator. I've got it in here. It's a good card. You get to draw cards off of it a lot. A lot of players don't have black creatures or artifact creatures to block him. The 1 damage isn't that relevant, but drawing the card is. And it's an invitational card, and I'm a sucker for those. Finkel's the best player. This isn't the best invitational card, but he's probably the best player. And the last one is Dendian Click. You come against players that run tutors like myself. If they tutor for a card, you flash this joker in and take it from them. Because I don't really want them to tutor for what they want, because usually it's something I don't want them to cast. Yes, they do get to draw a card off of it, but it's a trade you usually want to make. On to the 4-drops. Now this is I would say this guy is an all-star in this deck, Balfour. For 3 black, you can exile him and bring all your creature red. Each player brings all red and black creature cards from their graveyard into play. I'll tell you more about this combo a little bit later. But if you're running black, and you got graveyard interactions, this is the guy you need. Glen Elendra Archmage. It's basically 2 counters on a stick. Yes, it's a 2/2 flyer for 4, which is not awful, but the real value is getting to blue sack it to counter non-creature spell. It's got persist, so it comes back, and you can do it again next turn if you want to. and the fact I can recur her is all the better. Last 4-drop is Flame Tongue Kavu, which is just good value. Being able to deal 4 to target creature when it comes into play for 4. I mean, there's removal spells that cost 4 that don't do that, per se. But it's got a 4/2 body, which the 2 toughness is a little weak, but the 4 power is not. So if you don't have this guy in a commander deck and you're running red, why not? That's all I gotta say. He's always good value there. Going to 5, we've got Kiki-Jiki. One of the few really unfair things in my deck is Kiki-Jiki Zealous Conscripts. And yes, that is an I win scenario if they can't keep you from attacking or counter one of the 2 spells. So you just make infinite Zealous Conscripts, untapping Kiki-Jiki every time and making another one and another one. And you just got an army of 3/3s. So, yeah. I only really do that if somebody on the table is being a dick or something, or if I have to win, I will. It's not something I really am aiming for, but it is an option, which is nice to have. Because some people make these decks do unfair things, so you need your backup unfair thing to do to them. One of the last ones on this row is Urabrask the Hidden. Gives your creatures haste, your opponent's going to play tapped, but this guy is the real big interaction with Balthor. You want to have this guy in your yard when you sack Balthor, because then all your guys that come back have haste. And if you set it up right, you usually just win the game right there. I did ship this guy in a Balthor to Josh Dimley Morgan in a trade the other day. The Balthor was extra threw in because I knew the deck he was trying to make, and if you're going to run Urabrask, why not run Balthor? Because the interaction is just too cool. Like I said, a lot of games you can just win out of nowhere. Yeah, they may have blue or black creatures, but usually they're not as big as yours, or they haven't set it up quite as well as you have. Another 5-drop is Grimgrin. When I originally started building this deck, it was strictly a zombie deck, so he was a little bit more powerful. He's not the best guy now. I need to put the blue legendary Kamigawa land in that untaps target legendary creature. I've got one in the deck somewhere, so if you have a way to untap him every turn, he's a lot better. Having to sack stuff isn't great. Making them sack somebody when you attack is. So, like I said, look for ways to untap him. Amulet of Vigor is the way to untap him the first time he comes down. Like I said, that blue legendary land, I think it's Miyamo, is another way to do it every turn. So if you can abuse him, use him. But Havengul Lich is another fairly broken card in this deck. It's another one of those cards that says target creature card from a graveyard, which is generally better than saying target creature card from your graveyard. It does cost a little bit, but once you get it going, it's infinite guys, whoever you want, whenever you need them. To be honest, if anybody has a kill spell, they're probably going to kill this guy, so don't be surprised. So you make sure you have mana up when you cast him, so you can get some value out of him the first time you cast him. Speaking of value, Mold Drifter, everybody likes drawing cards. Evoke him for 3, you can always bring him back in this deck. It's not a big deal. If you get to hard cast him, all the better. But and then the last 5-drop is another obscure card from Onslaught Block, Riptide Shapeshifter. You get him into play, and if you've got 2 blue and 2, you get to sack him and choose a creature type. You just keep revealing cards until you hit one of that creature card type, and then you shuffle your back in your library. I almost always name Eldrazi, trying to get Ulamog, of course. Getting him to come in at the end of somebody's turn, that way I can swing in and make him, sack a bunch of stuff and just do a bunch of damage. Occasionally I have named Dwarf getting back Balthor. There's certain situations when you might name somebody else, but generally those are the 2 you want to get in this deck. But he can basically get you whichever creature you want, just about whenever you want it. There are a couple overlapping things, like I've got 2 Praetors, I've got multiple zombies, but generally you can name what you want, and it's whatever creature you want a tutor, essentially. If you haven't ever seen this card, try and pick it up. It's fun to play with if you're playing blue. People don't really notice it when you cast it. They have to read it, and then they might not even then understand what you're going to do and how unfair it is. So, good times, good times. On to the 6-drops. Got my altered Asara. Tough to beat a 5/5 that just taps and destroys stuff. I did get this down. Reanimated this on a guy on turn 2 a while back, and it took a couple turns, but he finally conceded. Just basically whatever you play, I'm going to kill it. That's just what it says. If you don't get rid of this pretty soon, the game's going to be over. This card I just picked up. I gave it a look after watching Ken Nagel's interview on Channel Fireball, talking about good Commander cards. This is the guy, he actually created this guy for Commander when he did the World Wake set. It's got Island Walk, Swamp Walk, which is pretty relevant. He can get through almost anybody, and when he hits, you get to cast an instant or sorcery from the graveyard without paying the mana cost. Not too bad. If that card, and then you get to exile that card, so you're taking something away from your opponents and getting to cast it for free. And it's a 5/8, which who doesn't love a 5/8 with Island Walk and Swamp Walk? This is another card that makes the Tomb of Yawgmoth really good because it gives them, gives all your opponents swamps. 2 big red 6-drops, Flare the Hatebound. Anybody that's cast this guy out of the graveyard knows it's a beating. If he's in the graveyard when you sack Balthor, that is usually the game, because if you're bringing back a couple other people, you're just doing almost infinite damage to them with everybody coming in at one time. And Inferno Titan, who doesn't love a Titan? And of the ones I could play, this one I like the most, because then being able to do the 3 damage and then the fire breathing effect. If you can, say Cryptic Command and they can't block him, he just comes in and just bash his face. So that, and it's full. And I do like playing all my fulls when I can. On to the 7-drops. Sheoldred, the Whispering one. Like I said, another Swamp Walker, which is, like I said, has good interactions. And being able to bring back people from your graveyard every turn. I have Buried Life for this and my 2 favorite cards in the deck, like, say this and RuneScar Demon and, I don't know, Eurobrask. So just say any 2 cards, any big cards. Just put them in your deck, in your graveyard, and next turn bring them back. Your opponent's having to sack stuff on their upkeep. In the multiplayer games, that's just a lot of advantage. RuneScar Demon, just a tutor on a 6/6 flyer. How can you argue with that? The best interaction with this guy is you get him in your graveyard with Sedris, and I think he needs 6 mana. So you unearth him, go get the Sundial of Infinite, play it, and activate it in a turn. So that's his most utility. He can get whatever you want, but that's usually what I get with him. And last, I think I've already mentioned this guy a couple times, Sphinx of Bethune. It's a Fact or Fiction on a 5/6 with flying. It's hard for them to make a stack that doesn't benefit you. Actually, I don't think it's possible. As John Medina said, it doesn't matter how they stack it, a Fact or Fiction is always good for you. So this guy, unearthing this guy is just crazy good. And then the 5/6 is pretty relevant to flying. Only the big 8-drops. Nico Bolas. Very rarely cast this guy from my hand. I have done it before, but usually I'm bringing him back. And if you bring him back with haste and he hits the guy, of course he just drops his whole hand. And yeah, the upkeep cost is not usually that relevant, so you're going to pay it all the time. So, and then one of the other fatties is Begarden Hellkites, dealing 5 to the face, or kind of mini wrathing their board is good. They cost 8 mana, but like I said, in this deck you're not paying that usually. And the last one is the big Eldrazi I've mentioned many times. They cost 11. He's a 10/10. If you actually do cast him, which I have done, just you get to Vindicate something, and then when he swings in, they sack 4 things. He's indestructible. Tough to beat Ulamog, unless you can copy it very, 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 very quickly. So, anyway, that's all the creatures. I've rambled on for going on 14 minutes. I do want to put a Snapcaster in this deck. Haven't done it yet. Don't know what I'm going to cut. Going to cut something. If you have any other suggestions, please leave them in the comments below or send me a message. And like I said, thanks guys for watching. I'll try and do more deck techs in the future if you'd rather see pack openings, or I try and do trade binders whenever I can, but just let me know what you want to see and I'll try and do it. Thanks for watching, guys.